So what I'm going to start with is I say that you said the funny thing is that you say you don't know a lot about baseball, but you do as an athletic director know that the amount of scholarships that you have that the NCAA allows.
11.7.
11.7. Okay, because I'm sorry because I thought that it was that you guys was like 7.4. So it's
11.7 for baseball.
11.7 for baseball.
Unless something has changed in the last 2 weeks. So.
Okay, so I thought it was 7.25. So that would explain why I was looking at your roster. You have like 44 guys on your roster, so that would pretty much explain why it's so deep. Because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, if it's 28, 29 guys, it should be
right.
Many people.
Right. 11.7. It's an equivalency sport. So you've got 11.7 to spread over 35 guys.
Okay.
35 is a full roster, so other kids are there paying their own way, trying to make the team, maybe walk-ons. But typically we care about 35 kids, but spreading 11.7 over 35 means no one is on a full scholarship in baseball.
So yeah, that brings up a good question, because I was speaking to someone up here, and he said he was in Chicago, and he was saying a lot of times African-American kids, they don't have too many places to go in terms of going, once they're playing baseball, and there aren't that many baseball scholarships,
There aren't.
So he was like, that's one of the frustrating things, is that they're developing the talent, but a lot of times they're just like, okay, there's not a whole lot of places to go. So it's
a drug. Yeah, I won't get into one of my soapboxes, but yeah, it's not enough scholarships to fully staff a team, because you need 11 or 12 pitchers minimum.
Wow. So you guys are you probably is your coach. Is he frustrated by this?
He's frustrated globally, yeah, but it's the same for every school. Every Division I school is 11.7, so it's equal in the sense that we're all struggling with the same limited dollars. It's frustrating that other sports, from a Title IX perspective, for instance, softball has 12 scholarships. So it's about the same scholarships, but you only need 1 or 2 pitchers in softball. Your pitcher can pitch every day in softball. And so you have a chance in softball to offer full scholarships, full rides to kids. Where in baseball, you don't, because you need 35 guys. You're going to have 12 or 13 pitchers. And then you've got to have position players. And so there are very, very few full rides in baseball.
Are you trying, I don't know, have you talked to Coach Hall about this, but are you trying to get kids who are playing multiple sports to recruit?
Yeah, it does not happen a lot at the Division I level. If we have one multi-sport athlete a year, that's a bunch. Division I athletics is about 10 months a year for most of these kids. I mean, so, baseball has in a regular year, in a non-COVID year, baseball has a fall season, 5 weeks of conditioning and workouts. They play games. These don't count in your standings, but they're going to play 4 or 5 games during the fall in that 5-week period, like spring football for football, except they're actually playing other teams. And then, you start in January, February, and run it through June. So there's just not a lot of time for any other sport to play. You do get occasionally a kid who will be a football player and a track athlete. You can play football in the fall, and you're a sprinter, and so you can be a track athlete. You get occasionally a young lady who plays volleyball and basketball, and those 2 seasons just overlap a little bit, and you can transition. Other than that, there's not a lot of crossover.
Do you have to play what they call the check games, especially for being a historically Black college and university, where you go out and
the guarantee games?
Yeah, the guarantee games, where you're about to get slaughtered by UCLA, or I'm not saying slaughtered, but that it may not be favorable, but that you're going to bring back a check, and is that helping the entire athletic department or just for the baseball team?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of guarantee games in baseball. There's some, like We're playing Purdue this year in the spring. I just saw the contract yesterday. They're coming down to North Carolina, and they're playing some other teams in North Carolina. So we're going to tag onto that, play 3 games, and the guarantee is hotel rooms. They're gonna cover our hotel nights while we're there. Your big guarantee money is in basketball and football, and so yes, our basketball team, our men's basketball team, plays guaranteed games every year. We try to minimize the number, keep it below 5. Because as you suggest, those teams are paying you to come beat you. And so that's not good for the program. It's not good for the student athletes. It's not good for anybody to just keep getting your head bashed in. So we try to limit those games. But in football and basketball, yes, we do play guaranteed games. And yes, that money goes into the budget for the department, not for those teams.
Yeah, no, I noticed that. What I noticed about your baseball team is that you are one of the best you're the best in school in your conference in terms of baseball.
Yes.
So that means you're going out and you're getting some good kids in terms of baseball. But I didn't notice this on the actual athletics page, but your stadium wise, how many seats do you have? Can you with the amount of attendance, can you cover some of the costs there?
We don't charge for baseball. We only charge for basketball and football. So the stadium seats about 7,000. In its heyday, it's seated 7,000. It's a municipal. It's a Greensboro city stadium. We're in the process of taking it or receiving it from the city. They're trying to get out from under it, and we're happy to take it. So it's in a significant state of disrepair right now. The seating area, the field is still good, but in its heyday, it seated about 7,000. But no, we don't charge admission for any sport except basketball and football.
Will the city of Greensboro do any updates or renovations to the stadium, or
they're going to give us $1.5 million to take it?
Okay.
So we'll use that money. It's a memorial stadium, war memorial stadium. So it's a World War I memorial, and so we need to do some work on the fascia to keep the memorial aspect of it in good repair. But the rest of it we'll use to basically take everything down and then build it back up with stuff that works. It's about at this point 95 years old, 93 years old. So I mean, again, World War I. So it's an old stadium.
Well, okay, this leads me to a new thing. This leads me to your roster, okay? And I know that you may not be able full depth of the roster, but you are at an HBCU.
Yep.
But I'm looking at your roster, and you have quite a few Caucasians. You have some Hispanic kids. Are you nudging your head coach to say, hey, you know what, let's try to get some more African Americans, or are you just saying let's fill the roster?
I'm saying let's win championships. Let's bring kids here that win championships. Obviously, as a state school, my nudging him is let's make sure we have a fair representation of in-state athletes, because it's a state school and we're supported by the taxpayers, and so I want us to have a good representation. And I like local kids, local high schools or their parents. He struggles frequently to land the top flight African American talent, because those kids have options. I mean, they can go anywhere. Everybody's recruiting them, and so from a facility perspective, from a budget perspective, it's hard for us to compete head to head with a Duke or a Carolina or a State or a Purdue. These Power 5 schools. All of my coaches have that challenge. So it's not about finding kids that look a certain way. It's about, I want to win championships.
Okay, so that's pretty much just answers it there. Your job as the director of athletics is like, hey, just win games. Just go out there.
Graduate kids, win championships. It's a
But
Sun Belt sport. I mean, it is.
and so what ultimately happens is that, now they're just building the winter facilities so they can play indoors. And baseball here, October you're done.
Right.
October, end of October you're done. November comes in, that cold air comes whipping in off the lake, and you're done.
Yeah. We lived in Buffalo for a few years, so I completely understand. I mean, that's why we're playing Purdue, is because we get these teams from up north, from New York, from Illinois, who are looking for games in February, in March. They come south. And so that's how we get to play a lot of those big schools, is because they need fair weather opponents.
Yeah, and like there are baseball. They play baseball up here, and they're crazy about it. It's just that they're saying, and you mentioned it. There's just not your state school. You're trying to focus on local kids, and you're saying the African American kids, because they're talented. They're talented, and they have better options.
Right.
So
they do, and it's hard to compete with the money. So if you got someone who comes out of high school with those skills. They're going to be drafted, so they'll have that choice. And then if they go to college, it's hard to pick against facilities and budgets and support services. So at a school like an A&T, at any mid-major, really, you have to recruit potential. And then your coaches have to actually coach. They have to actually develop these young people and increase their skill sets. And we've been very fortunate. I have outstanding coaches. But they're recruiting what they see a young man could be. He came out of a bad high school, or his coach in high school did not have the expertise to develop him. He's got the raw skills. Let's take him. First couple of years, maybe no payoff, but that junior and senior year, he's a stud. You develop him and you show him how he can perform. And so that's the story of mid-major sports across the country. You recruit potential, and occasionally you land, a 3-star, 4-star guy, and depending on the sport, that could be a game changer.
Wow. You're giving me a totally different perspective of how to look at it. And doing my story, I've had a totally different perspective, because I thought the game of baseball was dying. It's not actually dying in the Black community. It's just that it's the best way. It's contained. It's contained. It's not as popular as football. It's not as popular as basketball, obviously, but it's contained in this area, and there is a lot of love and happiness and excitement towards the game. But it's just a smaller community.
It is.
And partially is because there's unfortunately a lot of single parents in the home. So mom or dad may not have the amount of time to teach their kids the game of baseball. So and during my research, it's not that what I've noticed is that it's not that the kids are not talented. It's not that they don't want to play. In many cases, they just they have no place to go. Like Chicago State, they cut out their baseball program.
And we haven't talked about Title IX and the impact of Title IX, but that's affected every aspect of sport.
Yeah. So that's right. That's all the way across the board,
Right.
And I don't want to get you started.
I want to get into that. Yeah.
Like